office smelled of sawdust, the familiar tang of projects in progress. Jeremiah hadn't stepped inside in months. The sight of blueprints stacked on Monica's desk, the hum of their crew's tools in the workshop out back, hit him with a pang of something he didn't want to name. Home. And also loss. Monica looked up from her laptop when he came in. Her sharp eyes softened, but only a little. Well, look who remembered he still draws a paycheck. Jeremiah gave a tired smile and dropped into the chair across from her. I made it to talk. Her humor faded. She shut the laptop, leaning forward. All right, out with it. Jeremiah rubbed a hand over his face, exhaling slow. It's Abraham. Things, they gotten complicated. Monica's brow arched. Complicated how? He hesitated, his throat tight. Finally, the words tumbled out. We kissed. More than once. He says he wants me. I've been trying to fight it, but his voice cracked. He shook his head. I don't know what to do. Monica sat back, her arms folding. She didn't look surprised, only grim. Lord Jeremiah. I knew something was off. You've been walking around like a man on fire. I didn't mean for it to happen, he said quickly. I tried to stop it. I prayed. Stop. Monica's voice was sharp. You don't need to convince me. What you need is distance. You can't stay in that house with them. Not if this keeps happening. You need to leave. Jeremiah's chest tightened. He shook his head, firm despite the ache behind his ribs. I can't. Malachi's there. I promised Rebecca I'd look after him. If I leave, who's going to be there for him? Monica's eyes softened, but her jaw stayed tight. You're not his mother, Jeremiah. You can love him, you can help raise him, but you can't chain yourself to a situation that's breaking you. That child needs a whole man in his life, not one tearing himself apart. Jeremiah swallowed hard. If I walk out, it'll feel like I'm walking out on Rebecca too. I can't do that. Monica leaned across the desk, her voice low, urgent. Then you better decide what's going to crack first, Jeremiah. Your promise or your spirit. Because something's got to give. He dropped his gaze to his hands, trembling in his lap. For the first time, he couldn't answer her. Jeremiah came home late from the office, the weight of Monica's words still heavy on him. The house was quiet, unusually quiet. He sat his keys on the stand in the foyer and called softly, Malachi? Abraham's voice answered from the living room. He's with the sitter tonight. Thought we needed time. Jeremiah froze in the doorway. Abraham sat on the couch, a glass of bourbon in hand, the lamplight carving shadows across his face. His eyes were steady, hard, burning with something Jeremiah couldn't quite name. What do you mean, time? Jeremiah asked warily. Abraham set the glass down, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. Time to stop dancing around the truth. His voice was rough, insistent. I want you, Jeremiah. Not another wife, not some quiet arrangement to make life easy. You. Jeremiah's chest tightened. We've been through this? No. Abraham cut him off sharply. You've been through it. Hiding behind promises, behind shame. But I'm done waiting. If you won't give yourself to me, then I'll find someone who will. Another man who doesn't flinch every time he feels desire. The words sliced through the room. Jeremiah's breath caught. His whole body went rigid, heat rising under his skin. Don't you dare, he whispered. Abraham's jaw tightened. Why not? You won't have me. You push me away. You pray me out of your system. You want me quiet and invisible, but I'm still here. So why shouldn't I find someone who sees me, who won't keep me at arm's length? Jeremiah's voice cracked, his restraint breaking. Because I do see you. Because he stopped, chest heaving, unable to force the words the rest of the way out. Abraham stood slowly, stepping closer. His voice dropped, low and fierce. Then prove it, or I swear I'll walk out that door and find someone who doesn't treat me like a sin they can't shake. Jeremiah's hands trembled at his sides. He wanted to run, to retreat into prayer, into silence. But the thought of Abraham with another man, of being shut out of Malachi's life, of being left behind, it tore something open inside him. His voice came out raw. Don't you dare, Abraham. Don't you dare replace me. Abraham was in front of him now, close enough that Jeremiah could feel the heat of his body. He reached out, cupping Jeremiah's face, forcing him to meet his eyes. Then stop fighting me. Jeremiah's resolve broke. His lips parted on a shuddered breath, and Abraham kissed him, hard, urgent, years of restraint burning away in an instant. Jeremiah clutched at him, fingers digging into his shirt as their mouths collided, again and again. The kiss turned hungry, desperate, their bodies pressed together like they'd been waiting all their lives for this moment. Abraham's hand slid to Jeremiah's waist, steady and warm. His voice was low, certain. Let's go upstairs. Jeremiah stilled. The moment cracked open something tender and sharp in his chest. He shook his head, stepping back just enough to put space between them. No, his voice wasn't loud, but it was firm. I can't. Abraham searched his face, confusion giving way to understanding. That's Rebecca's room, he said quietly. I can't take this there. Not her bed. Not that space. For a moment, Abraham said nothing. Then he nodded, slow and respectful. Abraham's hand lingered at Jeremiah's hip, waiting. He didn't push. He'd learned better than that. Jeremiah drew a breath, steadying himself. Then he lifted his chin, met Abraham's eyes, and said quietly, "Let's go to my bed." The words hung between them. For a split second, Abraham didn't move, caught off guard by the certainty in Jeremiah's voice, by the way his eyes had changed. There was no hesitation there now, no shame flickering beneath the surface, just want, open and unguarded. Your bed, Abraham repeated, a slow smile tugging at his mouth. Jeremiah nodded. The guest room. Something warm and surprise settled in Abraham's chest. After all the times Jeremiah had pulled back, after all the careful no's and almost, this felt like a door opening. Inside the guest room, Jeremiah didn't hesitate. He turned, reached for Abraham first, fingers curling into the fabric of his shirt, like he was done pretending this wasn't what he wanted. Abraham caught his face in both hands, reverent and stunned, all at once. Are you sure? He asked, low and real. Jeremiah answered by leaning in, his voice barely there. I'm sure. There was all Abraham needed. When Abraham pressed him down into the bed, Jeremiah let himself go. Every vow, every prayer, every wall crumbling. The weight of Abraham's body against his own, the heat of skin on skin, the rhythm building between them. It was overwhelming, intoxicating. He whispered Abraham's name like a confession, like a surrender. Abraham answered with every thrust that drove deeper until Jeremiah's cries filled the room. For the first time in years, Jeremiah didn't feel shame. He felt alive, consumed, wanted. And when it was over, when their bodies finally stilled, slick with sweat and trembling, Jeremiah clung to him in the dark. His mind told him it was wrong, but his heart knew It was the closest thing to release he'd ever felt. The pale light of dawn crept across the room, soft but unforgiving, laying bare the evidence of the night before. Sheets tangled and damp, the air thick with the scent of sweat and skin. Abraham stirred, instinctively reaching for the warmth beside him. For the first time in so long, he felt at peace. All the longing, the frustration, the love he had carried pressed finally into flesh. At last, he thought. He's mine at last. But Jeremiah was awake. He lay rigid on his back, staring at the ceiling, every muscle tight, as though the dawn itself condemned him. His chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. He could still feel Abraham's hands, his mouth, the weight of him inside, and the memory seared him like fire. With deliberate care, he eased himself out from under Abraham's arm. The sheet slipped away. He moved quickly to the chair where his clothes hung, his hands shaking as he fumbled with buttons. Abraham blinked himself awake, groggy but content, until he saw Jeremiah's back turned, his movements hurried, panicked. "Hey," Abraham murmured, his voice husky from sleep. "Come back to bed." Jeremiah froze, shirt half buttoned. "If I go back, I'll never leave again. I can't," he said, barely above a whisper. Abraham's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "After last night, don't." Jeremiah's voice cracked sharp, slicing the fragile quiet. He turned, eyes flashing with pain. "We shouldn't have done it. It was wrong." The words hit Abraham like a blow. He rose from the bed, the blanket falling away, his bare chest heaving. Wrong? Jeremiah's eyes glistened. It was a sin. The word fell heavy, heavier than he had expected. I let myself. I let us. And I can't. I can't live with myself if I do it again. For a moment, Abraham just stood there, staring at him as if trying to recognize a stranger. Then he shook his head, disbelief etched across his face. A sin? His voice grew rougher. What we did wasn't wrong. It was us. It was... He stopped, fists clenching, trying to hold back the surge of emotion. "You wanted it. You wanted me. Don't you dare stand there and call that a sin." Jeremiah's lips trembled, but he steadied himself with conviction. "Wanting doesn't make it right." Abraham stepped closer, close enough to see the torment in Jeremiah's eyes, close enough to feel the distance widening, even as their bodies nearly touched. His voice dropped, hoarse. "So what, then? Last night meant nothing." Jeremiah's voice was faint, broken. It meant too much. The room fell into silence. Jeremiah brushed past him, footsteps uneven, and disappeared down the hall. The echo of the door closing sounded like finality. Abraham stood motionless. His body still ached from the intensity of the night before, but now the ache hollowed out into something deeper, something darker. Slowly, he sank back onto the bed, elbows on his knees, face buried in his hands. For months, he had carried loneliness like a second skin, but last night had stripped it away, if only for a few hours. He had touched Jeremiah, loved him in the only way he knew how, and for the first time, he had believed the future might be possible. Now, the emptiness came rushing back, doubled, unbearable. He poured a glass of whiskey before the sun had fully risen. The burn in his throat was sharp, but it couldn't touch the fire in his chest. He sat in the kitchen, the house too quiet, the walls pressing in. From down the hall came the soft sound of Malachi waking. A small cry, not loud, but enough to pull Abraham from his haze. He didn't move at first. He waited, listened. Sure enough, Jeremiah's voice followed, low and soothing. gathering the child into his arms. Abraham remembered last night how he had picked Malachi up from the sitter while Jeremiah slept, not wanting the boy's absence to be another weight pressing on him. Abraham closed his eyes. He could picture it, Jeremiah holding Malika, swaying him gently, pressing his lips to the boy's temple with a tenderness Abraham had long admired and envied. A lump rose in his throat. That's what he wants, Abraham thought bitterly. The boy, the safety, the purity. Not me. And yet, part of him knew Jeremiah wanted him too. Last night had proved it. Every kiss, every gasp, every desperate cry had been real. But shame had claimed him in the morning light, and Abraham didn't know how to fight something he couldn't touch. The whiskey glass trembled in his hand. He set it down hard against the table and pressed his palms to his eyes. I won't give you up, he muttered under his breath, though Jeremiah wasn't there to hear. Not like this, not after what we had. The words sounded like a vow, though fragile, unsteady. Jeremiah was in the basement, sanding down the high chair he'd been building for Malika when he heard the doorbell ring. He wiped the sawdust from his hands and opened the door. His mother stood there, small but firm, her church hat still pinned neatly in place. Her eyes swept over him, sharp and knowing. Monica called me, she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Said you ain't yourself lately. Said she's worried about you. Jeremiah sighed, closing the door. Monica worries too much. His mother turned on him, her gaze unyielding. And she's usually right too. Now tell me what's pulling at you. You got that look in your eyes. The same one you had when you were trying to get clean. Like something's clawing at you from the inside. Jeremiah's chest tightened. He walked back into the house and sat at the kitchen island. It's nothing I can't handle. Don't lie to me. Her voice softened, but only a little. You've been walking a narrow road, Jeremiah. You made a vow to the Lord, a vow of celibacy. I don't know what temptation's been knocking, but you better not let it inside. Jeremiah's breath caught. Shame surged hot through him, though she didn't know he already had let it in. More than once. Mama, he said, his voice breaking, what if I can't keep it? What if I already feel myself slipping? She moved closer, her hand firm on his shoulder. Then you pray harder. You fast. You keep your face in that word. The devil knows your weakness, son. He's using it to try and drag you back down. Don't you dare let him. Jeremiah shut his eyes, fighting the sting of tears. She thought she was saving him. She thought she was giving him strength. And all the while, her words pressed deeper into the wound he was already bleeding from. You got a calling on your life, she wailed. Don't throw it away chasing flesh. You hear me? The Lord delivered you once. Don't go running back in the chains he broke. Jeremiah nodded, though his throat was tight. Yes, man. She studied him another long moment, then finally gave his arm a squeeze. You stronger than this. Don't let me find out you ain't. When she left, the house felt unbearably quiet. Jeremiah sat on a stool by the kitchen island, burying his face in his hands. He had already failed her. Already failed God. And the weight of that secret pressed so heavy, he wasn't sure how much longer he could bear it. Jeremiah was in the kitchen, wiping the same spot on the counter over and over, as if he could scrub away what had happened between them. His jaw was tight, his shoulders wound up like a spring. You've been distant, Abraham said from the doorway. Jeremiah didn't look up. I'm here, ain't I? That ain't the same, Abraham pressed, stepping into the room. You're here in body, but not with me. Jeremiah dropped the rag into the sink, his voice hoarse. What happened was a mistake. I never should have let it go that far. Abraham's face tightened. A mistake? That's what you call it? Jeremiah turned then, meet his eyes for the first time. His voice trembled with conviction he didn't fully feel. It can't happen again. I made vows, Abraham, to Rebecca, to God. I ain't about to throw 'em away. Abraham took another step closer, his voice steady but fierce. Then let's make new vows with each other. Marry me? Jeremiah's breath caught. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious. Abraham's gaze didn't waver. You think I want another wife? Another lie? No, I want you. You, me, and Malachi. A real family. Jeremiah shook his head, his throat tight. You don't understand. A ring won't make it holy. It won't erase the sin. It'll only make it worse. Abraham's eyes darkened. So what? You'd rather keep pretending nothing happened? Pretend it meant nothing to you? Jeremiah's voice broke as he turned away. I'd rather bury it than lose my soul. The silence that followed cut deep. Abraham's jaw clenched, his chest rising in frustration and hurt. Then maybe you ain't the man I thought you were, he said finally, and left the kitchen without another word. Jeremiah pressed both hands to the counter, his whole body trembling. Relief and regret warred inside him, leaving only emptiness in their wake. The nursery was dim, the late afternoon light falling soft across the crib. Abraham stood over it, Maliki's small chest rising and falling beneath the blanket. He reached down, brushing the back of his knuckle lightly against the baby's cheek before stepping back, as if afraid to linger too long. When Jeremiah appeared in the doorway, Abraham didn't look up right away. His voice came low, quiet, as if he were speaking to himself. I've been thinking, he said. Jeremiah stepped closer, wary. About what? Abraham turned, his eyes shadowed, his voice quiet. Thinking about him. About you, about Rebecca. About how I've been holding on to something that ain't ever gonna be mine. Jeremiah's throat tightened. Abraham. No, listen. Abraham shifted the baby gently into the crib, brushing a hand over the soft blanket before turning fully to Jeremiah. You made promises to Rebecca. You made promises to God. And me. His voice faltered, then steadied again. I'm just the man who keeps pushing you to break them. Maybe it's time I stopped. Jeremiah's chest ached. Don't talk like that. Abraham shook his head. I can't keep you here. I can't keep forcing something you think is a sin. But I can give you the one thing that ties us together. He nodded toward the crib. Malachi. If you want him, I'll make it legal. Adoption papers. Your name on everything. He can be yours. Jeremiah's eyes burned, his breath catching. You do that? Just hand him over? I do it because I know you love him, Abraham said softly. Jeremiah stepped closer, his voice hoarse. But what about you? Abraham gave a hollow laugh. I'll be fine. Been alone before. I can be alone again. His eyes met Jeremiah's, raw and unguarded. But you're the one Maliki needs. Not a broken man drowning himself in whiskey. Not someone you can't even look at without guilt. The room felt unbearably small. Jeremiah's heart pounded, torn between relief and devastation. Abraham's voice dropped to almost a whisper. So if letting you go means keeping him safe, then that's what I'll do. Jeremiah pressed a trembling hand to his mouth, his body shaking with the weight of it. He had prayed for release, for clarity, but not like this. not at the cost of being handed the one thing that bound them together.